Welcome back to Euphonia Ebony, the podcast all about crafting a life that's balanced. And speaking of enriching, today we're diving deep into a topic that's incredibly relevant, especially today. It's World Day of Social Justice.
Yeah, it's February 20th, 2025. And the UN, they really want to use today to remind everyone about the importance of social justice.
And what does that really mean? Social justice. It sounds pretty big, right?
It is big. It is. But really, it's about making sure that everyone has equal opportunities, a fair shot. We're talking about things like poverty and discrimination.
So is it about fairness in the legal system? Is that what we're talking about?
No, it's way bigger than that. It's about all the systems and structures that create those inequalities in the first place.
Okay, so how long has World Day of Social Justice been around? Is this a new thing?
Well, believe it or not, it's fairly recent. The UN General Assembly, they actually established it in 2007. Yeah, and we celebrated the first World Day of Social Justice in 2009. Since then, though, they've used it as a platform to address all sorts of things. I mean, you've got poverty, gender equality, education, healthcare, even the environment has come up.
It sounds like it's not just about talk, though. Are there actual things happening to, make changes?
So absolutely. There are some amazing initiatives all over the world. One that really stood out to me was it's called Books Unbanned. It's run by the Brooklyn Public Library. And get this, they're offering 500,000 digital titles to teenagers across the entire US.
That's a lot of books. What makes that so impactful, though?
Well, you see, not everyone has the same access to information, right? So Books Unbanned is trying to level the playing field a bit. They're making sure that young people, no matter where they live or what their background is, they can get a hold of all kinds of information, different kinds of books.
That's pretty incredible. And are there other examples, similar things happening?
Oh, definitely. Another one that I thought was really cool was Strands for Trans. And it's specifically designed for transgender individuals.
So it's more than just a haircut, then?
Exactly. A lot of transgender people, they face a lot of discrimination. They feel uncomfortable even trying to get, basic services. And Strands for Trans is trying to create a space where they can, where they can feel safe and respected.
That's such a powerful example. It really shows how even something that seems small, like a haircut, it can be a really big deal.
It really can. And it reminds us that this whole idea of social justice, it's not some abstract thing, It's about people's lives. It's about creating a world where everyone has the chance to live a good life and reach their potential.
Now, speaking of real-world impacts, I was thinking about the 2008 financial crisis. That really seemed to highlight the need for social justice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that crisis, it wasn't just about money, right? It showed just how fragile our social safety nets can be. Unemployment went up, poverty went up. And
The people who were already vulnerable, they were hit the hardest.
yeah, exactly. It became really clear that when things go bad, it's the people who are already struggling. They're the ones who suffer the most.
So the crisis kind of sort of forced everyone to look at these issues of social justice, right?
Absolutely. And the UN and the International Labor Organization, the ILO, they really stepped up and said, hey, this stuff isn't just some ideal, it's actually essential. We need social justice if we want a world that's stable and fair.
So what did they do?
Well, in 2009, they launched this thing called the Social Protection Floor Initiative, or SPFI for short. And basically, it's a global push to try and make sure everyone has at least a basic level of social security.
Now, I've heard of the SPFI, but honestly, I don't really know what it is.
Well, think of it like this. It's about creating a floor, right? A minimum level of protection to make sure everyone can live a decent life. And there are four main parts to it. First, you've got what we call universal access.
Okay.
Basically, it means everyone should have access to essential services like healthcare, education, and income security.
I mean, that sounds great in theory, but it also sounds really expensive.
It does, but it also has economic benefits. And that leads us to the second part of the SPFI, economic stability. See, when you provide social protection, it helps stabilize the whole economy, especially during those tough times, economic downturns. It keeps people from falling into poverty, and it keeps the overall demand in the economy going. Economists, they call that aggregate demand.
So it's like a safety net for everyone, not just for individuals.
Exactly. It's an investment in people, And then the SGFI, it's also grounded in human rights. That's the third element.
So it's not just about giving handouts. It's about recognizing that people have a right to a decent life.
Exactly. And then the fourth and final piece is crisis management. The SPFI, it really emphasizes that we need systems that can handle those big shocks, economic crises, natural disasters, things that can really hurt the most vulnerable people.
So it's about being prepared and having systems in place to support people when they need it most.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work? Who's responsible for all of this?
Well, a lot of it comes down to international organizations, especially within the UN system. They're the ones who offer the expertise, the financial support, the technical know-how, and they work with different countries to help them develop their own systems.
I imagine that involves a lot of different organizations, a lot of collaboration.
So it's definitely a team effort. You've got the ILO, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the IMF, the World Bank. They all have their own roles to play.
So it's a complex system.
It is. But, that's because these issues are all connected. You can't really solve poverty without also looking at healthcare, education, gender equality. It's all one big puzzle.
So we've talked about this big idea of social justice and initiatives like the SPFI, but I think a lot of people listening are probably wondering, like, what can I actually do? What can I do to make a difference?
Right. And it's a good question because even though these problems feel huge, individual actions, they really can make a difference. And one of the most important things is becoming an advocate.
So what does that actually look like? Like, what does it mean to advocate for social justice?
Well, it could be as simple as raising awareness in your own community, talking to people about these issues, sharing information online, or maybe you participate in events, protests, things like that.
So using your voice, using whatever platform you have to kind of amplify these issues.
Yeah, exactly. And another really important thing is volunteering. There are so many organizations out there doing amazing work, addressing poverty, supporting refugees, promoting gender equality. Find something that resonates with you and see how you can help.
So you're saying find an organization that's already doing good work and offer your time, your skills, whatever you can contribute.
Exactly. And then there's also, influencing policy. A lot of people don't realize, you can actually have an impact on the laws and policies that are being made.
So like participating in campaigns.
Exactly. And joining advocacy groups, that are focused on the issues you care about.
So using those democratic tools, using your voice to actually push for change.
Right. And then on a more personal level, education is huge. Just learning about these issues, it can help you challenge your own misconceptions. And then you can share that knowledge with others, help shift perspectives within your own circle.
It's about having those tough conversations sometimes and helping people understand the complexities of these issues.
Exactly. And then, if you're able to donating to organizations that are doing this work, even small amounts of money can make a really big difference.
Putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah. And then there are other ways to get involved too. You can participate in research, surveys, things like that.
So helping to provide the data, the insights that can actually inform the solutions.
Right. And then even your everyday choices, as a consumer, they can make a difference.
Like how?
Well, think about the businesses you support, the organizations you donate to. Do they prioritize fair labor practices? Are they environmentally sustainable? Are they inclusive in their hiring practices? All those things matter.
So being a conscious consumer and making sure your actions align with your values.
Exactly. And then, even if you don't have the time or the resources to do some of those things, you can still make a difference in your everyday interactions.
So what do you mean by that?
Just being kind, be inclusive. Stand up against discrimination when you see it. Challenge prejudice when you hear it. Treat everyone with respect and dignity, no matter who they are or what they believe.
So creating a more just and equitable world, one interaction at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
And, World Day of Social Justice, it's a good time to pause and think about our own role in that journey.
We need these holistic approaches, We can't just focus on one issue in isolation.
We have to look at the root causes of injustice and work toward a world that's just and sustainable for everyone.
And that's what the Social Protection Floor Initiative is all about, right? But the thing is, it's not just up to governments and big organizations to make this happen.
So to kind of wrap up this deep dive, is there a question, a thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think a good question to consider is how can you apply the principles of the Social Protection Floor Initiative? How can you apply those principles to your own community? What are the challenges that your community is facing? And how can you help?
That's a great question. We really encourage you to think about that and to consider how you can contribute to a more just and compassionate world. Is there like one key takeaway that you want our listeners to really ponder?
I think it's just remembering that this social justice, it's not just an idea. You know, it's about people, it's about lived experiences, it's about real people who are facing real challenges. So when we're talking about poverty or inequality or discrimination, we're not just talking about numbers. We're talking about people, we're talking about our neighbors, our colleagues, our fellow human beings.
Yeah, and recognizing that we all have a responsibility to try and make things better.
Right. Exactly. And, you know, the social protection floor initiative that we talked about, I think that's a really good framework for how we can create a world that's more equitable. Yeah. And it's about making sure everyone has those basic things, the things that you need to live a good life, the opportunity to reach your full potential, and the security to weather those tough times when things get rough.
Like a safety net for everybody.
Right, exactly. And World Day of Social Justice, it's a good reminder that we all have a role to play in making that vision a reality.
Absolutely. And it's not just about governments or big organizations. It's about all of us taking responsibility and taking action however we can. So as we wrap up this deep dive into World Day of Social Justice, we'll leave you with this question. How can you apply those principles of the Social Protection Floor Initiative to your own community, to the challenges that you see around you?
Yeah, we encourage you to really think about that. How can you help build a more just and compassionate world?
Thank you for joining us.
From Euphonia Ebony for a lived life both calm and exuberant.